you have a big fan. Like we know you on this side of the world. I don't know if you're aware of that.
No, really, I never heard that. I don't know, are you aware or not? I've started my YouTube channel 6 years ago. I started to work in Russian and Ukrainian language, and then I switched to Ukrainian. And in that domain, I have 173,000 followers and about 18 million of views. And my doctors from Ukraine telling me that similar things as you said. And I'm honestly quite surprised that in Latin America, doctors know me, follow me, and it inspires me to work more in English for your part of the world. So thank you for sharing me this information.
Maybe now that you're in Madrid, you can also maybe try with the Spanish. It's not that hard.
Yes, I know, but it's my big pain. I don't have, no tengo tiempo para practicar, para estudiar español, pero hablo un poco español. Mi esposa, mis hijos hablan español muy bueno, pero yo trabajo en inglés y ucraniano y necesito más tiempo y más energía para estudiar español. Pero es en mis planes.
Wow. Es casi perfecto español. Felicidades.
Muchísimas gracias.
Ok, Oleksii. Te quiero presentar. ¿Es Oleksii o Oleksii?
Oleksii.
Ok, Oleksii. Okay.
Yes.
Una pequeña presentación. Oleksii Sologub. Tú estás, you are in the field of ophthalmology first, as I understand, you were as in Technolmex, in the company Technolmex. I'm sorry, Technomedics, right?
Technomedics, yes.
Yeah, since 1996, it's a ophthalmology related product distributor, right? You started in the Ukraine, but then you expanded and created other platforms, including your very successful YouTube channels in Russian and in English, and maybe in the near future in Spanish. And you're the creator of which is the thing that brought me, and I'm very interested in talking to you about it, of the patient decision design architecture system. So as we were discussing it before, you are a very strong voice online and on the very effective media on transmitting information on I consider on a very disruptive but very effective way to explain very complex information from very technical properties of the lenses that we offer as doctors to the patients. But it's very surprising also that since you don't have like a medical degree as a background, but you are very effective to transmitting that information. So as a start of the conversation, all of this background is very fascinating to me, because given this background on the ophthalmology distribution business, what was let's say the eureka moment, the light bulb moment that you saw where you realized that doctors need the help in this specific part of the field of the intraocular lenses? How did that connection happen?
Oh, thank you for this introduction and reminder of my story. And it's a very interesting question. You know, I've started in 1996, and I started as a technical service engineer for Phaco Systems. I was 19 at the time, and I was occasionally was brought into the field, and we started in Ukraine building the Phaco vault from the scratch, from nothing. So my company brings the first Phaco machines, and I help doctors to work with the machines, assisted them in OR with the machine, and start learning application of intraocular lenses. And at that time in Ukraine, we had no medical insurance, nothing, and all the procedures being paid out of the pocket. So it was purely private practice when we had a very low income population, no possibility to, let's say, no financial system well settled. So it was kind of wild times. And we tried to help doctors to build the relationship with the patient, try to be helping them to be successful. And with that experience, I've realized that the patient is the only person who pays all the bills for us. But honestly, this triggering moment happens to me somewhere in 2008, as far as I remember. I realized that we helped doctors for years, helping them to build a private practice, explain things. And in 2008, I started to think more deeply about the patient communication. And with all the years, our business been built on helping private practices, because it was only one source of for private practice. It was only one source, making the surgeries for out-of-pocket payments. And the core idea of our business was not just selling the boxes. We tried to educate doctors on technologies, because in my country at that time we had a big problem with an English language level, lack of information, and we brought the knowledge, we brought education, and we helped them with the business. So in all this together create this environment when we realize that we have to help them to talk to the patients. And maybe one more interesting detail, my business been founded by my father in '89. We started with intraocular lens manufacturing, and back to 890s, doctors didn't buy sometimes lenses from us. And I do remember that sometimes they send the patients directly to our office to buy intraocular lenses. They just prescribe on the paper, patient come in, bought a lens, and bring it to the doctor. And probably it was kind of initial source, talking to the patients, selling them lenses, explaining why that lens better, etc. And yeah, it's quite long story, but one more point, sometimes we realize that not all the doctors understand the technologies in a, let's say, in a way how we would like them to understand. And it also was kind of triggering moment to help them to make things, complicated things, easier. Because at the end of the day, if you're a doctor and you have to play two roles, basically. You have to treat your patients, to do your surgery, diagnostic, and all the things. And you have to explain, especially if we are talking about the private practice, you have to explain to your patient why you are using that technology, why you want to use, for instance, premium lens or offer a premium lens. And it's, for some doctors, it's kind of selling, which for some is kind of comfortable zone. For quite a lot of doctors, it's not comfortable zone. And we realize that this explanation of complex things, because you as a surgeon looking to the lens from your perspective, and the patient looking to this lens from absolutely different perspective. And well, to be successful, we have to connect these two worlds. We have to help patients to understand values. And it's, let's say, my philosophy, what makes me, what drives me to show these videos, formalizing these communication structures to simplify the world of the surgeons, and to help you, to help patients see better. I would say it that way.
Yeah, that's great. That's actually how it feels in the videos. And that's actually what delivers in the videos. So now, after 25 years of experience of that, I see you had early on access to the patient side of you. Maybe that's what I see, that is the biggest early on shaping on your thinking about maybe this interaction. But what do you think is the biggest disconnect right now between the design and the everything that offers the technologies of the lenses, and what the surgeons understand and the patients get offered at the end in the consult and at the end on the operating room?
Well, the biggest disconnect, to my understanding, when I started YouTube channel, I started just trying to explain some things to the patient, and then I realized that it gives huge source of information about this disconnect, how people perceive the communication with the doctors, and I receive tons of comments on my videos and significant amount of direct messages where patients sometimes try to find the information or saying that, well, doctor is not able to explain. So the biggest disconnect is we look generally, it's about technology view from the doctor side and how to say life view from a patient side. So when patients, I talk to the patients quite often, and if patients, the typical question of the patient, they start sometimes asking, well, if we compare IOL A with IOL B, what is the best? So some of them are quite educated, and they say, well, what if I ask my doctor to set it for micro monovision and half a diopter menos, less, etc. And I try to stop this conversation and try to give them back initial part, how to say, triggering point why they're asking this question. I said, why you are talking about the micro monovision? Because I want to read better, and I read that lens is not so efficient at reading. I said, okay, let's focus on your life. So at the end of the day, after your surgery, would you thinking about how much diopters you have in your eye? You will just use your vision, right? And your current question is about how would you use your vision in your daily life. That's it. So the biggest disconnect, the problem is sometimes patients saying that doctors are doing bad job in education. I always said to them, come on, doctors are not, how to say, designed to educate you. Doctors, primary idea of the doctor, the primary goal of the doctor is to help you, to do a surgery, to diagnose you. But your primary goal is to use your eyes, to use your vision. And doctor is looking to the lens or to the surgery from, let's say, clinical and technical point. And you thinking about your life point. So the biggest disconnect is different angles of view. That's it. It sounds very simple, but at the same time, it's quite complicated because patients are not, quite often, they're not able to ask a question directly. They sometimes are not able to understand what they wanted to ask. And as a doctor, trying to explain in terms which is well familiar with to the doctor. They try to explain something like in diopters, reading, visual acuity, etc. And patients try to decode these messages and try to compare these messages with a life experience. And the conversation moves more to clinical part, and we forget about the initial life part of the patients. So when I'm talking to the patient, I always asking them, think about the distance of vision, what you would like to read or do something, whatever if it's about reading or it's about handicrafting or about whatever. Talk to a doctor, say, doctor, I won't see whatever at that distance. And doctor will do his calculation. Don't try to talk to the doctor in diopters or visual acuity. Try to communicate in a simple terms. And in some cases, what I know, it helps. But the biggest disconnect, making things shorter, it's just a different angle of view. Patients are looking for life after the surgery, so they're not buying a lens, they're buying life experience. That's it.
So it's finding the commonality on the quality of life effect, let's say, between both sides. That's like the common ground that they can find, maybe the understanding between patients and doctors. That's what I'm understanding.
Well, I would avoid saying the quality of life because it's quite academic terms. Quality of life for patients, they thinking in absolutely simple words like
very specific tasks.
Very specific task. It is the core of the architecture what I've designed because it helps you to focus on a specific task of the patient. So we don't have to talk to them and we will improve your quality of life, because if you tell to somebody your quality of life will be improved, it's a additional cognitive load for the patient. Because what is my quality of life? I have to think what I value the quality. Are you talking about my credits or my my roof or whatever? So they're confused. We have to talk about your visual experience. So how you want to see? That's it.
Visual experience. Okay, that's okay. That makes a lot more sense. So your channel, that, well, at least the English version of your channel, the IOL Advisor Intraocular Lenses Truth. I went also through your material, and I noticed you use the word truth a lot. And using through that, maybe the reasoning for using that term. I want to know, what do you think is the most common, I won't say lie, but maybe a misunderstanding that the industry sells sometimes to the ophthalmologists regarding the premium lenses?
Excellent question. Yeah. The problem is it is the second factor of disconnecting between the patient and the doctor. The problem is that it's natural that marketing is trying to promote the product of whatever brand. It's obvious. And plus, the marketing of the clinics, in some private clinics, marketing is, I would say, it's less aggressive. Some clinics are doing quite aggressive and incorrect marketing, promising that sharp vision, 20/20 always, etc. And I call it kind of digital trust gap. So when marketing trying to attract people, selling them the best visual outcomes, or promise to reading or not reading or something like that. And sometimes, we can play with the numbers. We can pre-select, let's say, set of patients to get certain data. And we can do kind of clinical trials, getting quite, how to say, consistent and a good results for the clinical trials. And certain lens might perform way better than in real life, because in real life you are not able to spend few hours calculating refractive power of the lens, comparing tons of calculators, treating anterior ocular surface, whatever, for astigmatism, selecting the best patients, and all the things, giving a little bit of our promise to patients. And not all the doctors really have time to read all the articles, to dig deeper, because everyone is busy. And sometimes sales reps could bring you, not you exactly, but to the doctor, of course, something like a bright article with a very nice title saying that here's a publication which gives that lens so exciting characteristics, it performs so well. And doctor doesn't have time to read that it was on just 5 patients or simulation or on optical bench or whatever. He tries, promise to the patient, because you have, as I said at the beginning, you have to promise to the patient something. So if you're trying a new lens, and what you can promise what industry promises you. Then you try it, and, well, it works not as good as you might expect. So what I learned, and interestingly, I worked with many brands as a distributor, as a clinical application specialist. And to me, it was a big, I do remember it was about 20 years ago, my first day in marketing, when I was invited to marketing meeting of one company, and then next week to the marketing meeting of second company which been acquired at the time. And this company has been in competition, but the bigger company bought the competitors, and I was on the both market meetings. And at the time, I was a little bit naive. I was shocked that the company A explained that our lenses are the best due to that, and our competitors are not as good because of 1, 2, 3. We said, well, it's clear, evident, no question. Next week, competitors said something similar, explaining in a different way, and also logically. I said, that's interesting part. So what I've realized that in coming back to your question, in modern marketing, kind of, let's not call it lie, but it's kind of let's say specific manipulation of wordings. So if something is not listed about the lens, it means there is nothing to list. If something is highlighted, okay, it means it makes sense. But okay. For myself, when I try to understand and analyze different lenses, let's say 20 years ago or 15 years ago, I was reading what is listed. Nowadays, I try to ask myself, what is not listed in that specifications? And if something is not listed, you understand that it could be a weak point. That doesn't mean that lens is bad. It means that you have to understand that that particular model and this particular, let's say, part of the wall of the specifications is not as strong, like MTF or visual acuity, well, the focus curve or whatever. So marketing is just as everywhere, trying to highlight strong parts and trying to eliminate something which is not as strong. And it creates a little bit bias to whatever product. And I try to uncover these things. For example, I never heard that doctors offering and promising to the patient, at least 10 years ago, reading ability with a trifocal lens. Nobody saying that the reading ability works well in a good lighting conditions, because with a trifocal lens, when your pupil is enlarging physically and by design of the lens, more light energy goes to the far vision. That it means you lose your reading ability. It's kind of, but it's never written. You will be able to read, but take care about lighting conditions. It's just one example.
It's not specifically mentioned.
Absolutely. Everybody knows it, but patients facing with that knowledge after the implantation. And if it comes after cataract, it's more or less okay. But if it's refractive lens exchange for a relatively young patient who is supposed to expect 20 years old vision in bright light and dim light, patient said, oh, they cheating me, and what can I do now? I didn't expect that.
So the follow-up question, I think you just made it more interesting, because it was focused on the 3 technical parameters that you look for in the new technologies in intraocular lenses, for you to make an idea if it's a good new technology or not. But I think I want to change it right now, and I want to ask you, what are the main 3 things that you see or look for that are not listed when you are getting a new technology, and you say, okay, are they mentioning 1, 2, 3? And if it's not there for you, it's a red flag, maybe.
Well, if we're talking about premium lenses, first of all, it's the technology of the optics. Is it I now, for myself, probably you are aware that ESCRS recently published a kind of guidelines. They have 6 types of IOLs. This ESCRS working group on this simultaneous vision lenses, and new terminology arrived here. But I'm trying to simplify these things for myself and for my customers, saying, guys, nowadays we have, I would say, 2 types of lenses. One is single focus lens. I'm not talking monofocal, just to don't mix monofocal with EDOF. So single focus lens, and more than one. Again, eliminating multifocal lens, but it is multifocal. So we have two technologies, like single focus lens is monofocal, enhanced monofocal, EDOF, whatever is it, but based on one focal point. Another group of lenses is just at least multifocal. It means far and near, or far and intermediate, or trifocal, or whatever. And the first question I'm asking myself, what technology is inside? Because I didn't read it, didn't check it, let's say recently, but I do remember when EDOF concept was launched to the market, few manufacturers claimed that they have EDOF lens as well. But this EDOF lenses was basically multifocal lens with two focal points at far, at let's say +1 or something like that. So close focal points, they was claiming that it's EDOF. But I said to myself that it's a little bit not correct. So probably behavior is similar to EDOF, but they have two focal points. So first one is a technology built in the optics. Is it single focus, or we are playing with multiple focuses? What it gives us? It gives us first orientation about the contrast sensitivity. Because contrast sensitivity is quite an important factor, and if contrast sensitivity is not published for the lens, or published sometimes in quite strange, let's say, scale or whatever, it's kind of not red flag, but something to think about. For example, we have a basic contrast sensitivity scale, but sometimes some manufacturers could publish it, let's say, contrast sensitivity in MTF, which is not a contrast sensitivity, it's function of the contrast. Then, of course, if we're talking about presbyopia correcting lenses, the core is the focus curve and behavior of the lens for the particular patient. Because, for example, even if you're talking about trifocals, some models give you better vision at 35 centimeters, or let's say closer to 30. Some models designed for 40, a little like Panoptix, for instance. They start a good performance more or less at 40. And the biggest problem is intermediate part, because different lenses have a little bit different intermediate zone. And if you're talking with a patient who said, well, I have to work with a computer, I always asking what type of computer do you use? This is my first question. Is it a notebook, where you normally sit quite close like this, because it's smaller, you need to reach the keyboard, and your working distance, especially with smaller PC, is shorter. If it's large screen, normally it's 70 centimeters or 80 centimeters. So the focus curve is very important. And the most critical part, as I mentioned earlier, today is kind of evidence. So if it is the focus curve based on simulation optical bench, which is written in a small prints, or is it just preliminary results with the 5 patients and that's it, and we have no idea how this patient been selected, what formula been used, etc. It's a kind of not a red flag, but it's something to consider if you're going to use that lens. So level of evidence, basically, it calls a level of evidence of the performance of the lens. If we have a large set of data, if we have a clear factors, how patients been selected, how the focus curve been measured, do we have parameters of the focus curve measurement, so it's lighting conditions, because we can measure in different lighting conditions, and with the same lens I get a little bit different focus curve. So it's quite important to understand what we're talking about in particular lens. So I think that's my answer.
So in all of this, of course, the focus curve is very, it's a basic thing to understand, but this is it can be an abstract subject even for doctors themselves. So how do you manage that information in a way that is more comprehensible for the patient?
Well, coming back to the patient, we should think about the distance where the patient wants to see without glasses. The size of the object, more or less, which patients need to operate with. And it's tricky point, but it moves to clinical side of the equation. You have to understand approximately what visual acuity is needed for that. What visual acuity is needed for the patient to operate at that distance with that particular object. The easiest task is reading. Everybody knows how to read. We have this beautiful reading, what is name?
Like tablets or
reading tablets like this. My favorite one is this EDTRS with ruler. Yeah, and so we have to understand what patient is looking for, and we have to understand what lens delivers in terms of the focus curve, and we have to do this calculation in our mind to explain to the patient you will be able to see or not. And what is important here, I recently discovered this point for myself. Are you aware about Acuity Reserve terminology term?
Not very acquainted with it.
Me too. I just try to understand the reason why some patients are unhappy with reading, saying that, well, I'm not reading, but I'm reading. Acuity Reserve, it comes from low vision field, but I recently found in a publication of 2020s where it's applied also to refractal lens exchange. So the idea is Acuity Reserve says in low vision, where we operate like 0.8 log MARP or 7 log MARP, whatever, so very, very low vision patients. When doctor tries to prescribe glasses for reading for very vision impaired patients, they have terminology Acuity Reserve, which says for a comfortable reading, the object has to be magnified at least 3 times. So if patient is able to read that size of letters, to read it comfortably, it should be that size for fluent reading. It means it's about 5 rows logmar. I recently published a short overview about this on my website. I did last week. We had a conference in Ukraine, and I did a lecture about this Acuity Reserve findings, and it was well accepted by our audience. So that's why I put a short note on my website. I can drop you a link a little bit later. So what it says to us. So if you are looking for a visual acuity, and if patient saying to you, I want to read these letters at that distance, your next question should be, are you planning to read it for a long time, or you need it to read quickly? For example, recently I talked to a patient who said, well, I'm as a guy of 75 years old, absolutely active and riding bicycle like hell. He said he's using mountain bike, a lot of bikes, different conditions, new roads for him. And he said, I need quite often, he said, I'm riding a bicycle fast and at some new locations for me. I have to constantly look in front and then look back to my GPS to understand where is my turning point. And we discovered that for his, he was thinking about EDOF lens because it's far vision, etc. But when I dig deeper to his visual needs, we realized that he is using basic letter size on his GPS, and he said, I need to see some details, etc. And for his particular case, he needs to quickly read the screen and come back to the road. And visual acuity, which basic EDOF gives at that distance, is not enough for quick reading. So he needs to concentrate half a second more. And it might be dangerous because you can miss whatever tone, something on the road.
Of course.
So when we're talking about the vision, what we are planning to offer to the patient, we have to think about not just technical terminology like your visual acuity is 0.4 logmar. It means you can read Jagger 4 or Jagger 2, whatever. But we have to ask what exactly reading means to you. Or if you're doing some handicrafting, for example, if you're just taking a screwdriver to unscrew one screw once in 3 days, that's fine. You can a little bit concentrate, put a little bit of effort, find this little screw and unscrew. But if it's your job and you want to do it without glasses, you need at least more lines in visual acuity that reserve, which gives you a threshold which you can read and distinguish with a concentration, and a comfort zone, which is at least 1 or 2 lines above the comfort zone and the threshold. It's very interesting.
That is very interesting.
It was a big opening for myself as well.
I'm gonna start thinking deeper about about that now. So coming to the let's call it core of the questions. Talking about the process of the selling of which type of technology the patient wants or could be interested in. Where do you think that the traditional ophthalmology consultation model is failing right now?
Well, traditional ophthalmology is failing at one important thing. We are putting patient out of the equation, the patient's values. I'm planning my refractive lens exchange soon. I'm highly hyperopic, and I'm 49, and I think that it's time for me to reduce risk of acute glaucoma, and I'm not happy with my presbyopia. I'm an active guy, and what I realized talking to the doctors, we tend to push all the information in this 10 to 15 minutes consultation, explaining, well, we have monofocal, multifocal, blah, 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 blah. My majority of my patients are able to read that font at that distance with that lens, and that lens is good for you, etc. So we're trying, as all the experts, they're trying, I have the same problem. For example, I feel that I'm talking more than probably needed for our interview. I think I'm quite trying to load with information, but probably I have to talk less. It's my big problem. So if I'm talking long, just stop me.
No, it's okay. It's okay.
Thank you. So coming back. The problem, we're trying to simplify for ourselves. I'm talking ourselves, meaning doctors. I'm not a doctor, sorry, but I'm somehow connected with the
industry. You're very more informed than a lot of doctors.
Thank you, but a lot of doctors are able to do surgery way better than me. So we are complementing. The problem is we're trying to explain and we're trying to find a clinically relevant criteria what lens to offer to the patient. And in, I would say, 2/3 of the patient is fine. But for 1/3 of the patients, it might be something untypical. And the problem is we are trying, what I've realized recently, that we have consensus in premium lenses. So to master premium lenses, what you should know and what you have to master: first, biometry, then astigmatism and ocular surface. Then you have to understand the retinal conditions, macula, all the things, and to think whether multifocal is applicable or not, etc. Then, fourth element, you have to understand technologies. Are you dealing with a monofocal, with multifocal? Is this EDOF lens? Delivers a good contrast sensitivity or bad? What is the optical zone? What is pupil size? All this technical stuff you have to consider. I'm even skipping this angles, alpha, kappa, and all the things. Yeah. And the fifth element, which is also we have a consensus about it, we have to offer a proper lens to the proper patient, right? But we have a lot of how to do biometry, what formulas to use, how to calculate, how to measure, let's say, dense cataract, whatever. We'll have a lot of things, how to evaluate ocular surface, how to treat dry, etc. We have a lot of things, how to read the OCT. We have a lot of data to understand the lenses. But that element, how to match the lifestyle to the lens, is missing, because we are talking, you have to understand what patient is doing, but we are doing it in a quite basic way. Are you reading? Are you driving? My clinical data shows that vast majority of patients are able to read this, not thinking about what is reading. As I said, should it be quick? Should it be comfortable? Or is just fine to concentrate and see? And we have to a little bit rethink to my view the way how we communicate, for two reasons. First of all, the patients already coming to ourselves prepared. They are always searching in internet. Now they're using language models like Google, ChatGPT, Gemini, whatever, AI, and they already came prepared for something. And then they filter, in many cases, they're trying to filter your words to what they already know about the technology and trying to compare. And it's one part. But we should not focus on a lot of technologies to the patient, to my understanding, because as we started at the beginning, patients are looking for something which will change their life, which will improve their vision for particular tasks. And that's why the framework I propose to use, it's I call it Smart Sight framework. It's just first try to ask the patient not about your occupation. Ask yourself. I'm suggesting to start with the words "ask about yourself." Tell about yourself. Tell about yourself. Because it means if you ask that question to whatever person, it's quite unexpected person from a doctor, but a person naturally starts to explaining the most relevant, the most valuable, important parts about the life. Then double check what patient explained in terms of vision. And at that point, you have to already understand in what direction you have to move. But normally, myself, when patients are asking me about the lenses, I understand what type of the lens we have to deliver to the patient is either EDOF or monofocal, whatever. But then if I just tell to the patient, hey, man, you need a trifocal, that's it, in 5 seconds, patient would be happy. We have to explain why. Because patient want to be safe, because he or she read before about multifocal, EDOF, whatever, bad experience, good experience. We have to explain why. And we call this a patient education. We started explaining, well, cataract is that, we do phaco like this, lenses are different, monofocal, multifocal, and we are delivering quite a lot of irrelevant information. We are wasting time, and patient is trying to filter, that's not for me, I know what is cataract. Or you are talking about monofocal, I definitely don't want monofocal, or vice versa. And then you just coming to what is important, and you are not physically able to deliver more information relevant to the patient. That's why tell me about yourself, explain. I call this method ask twice. So patients say, well, I need a good vision here. I need a good vision for my reading. Okay, ask twice. What can you please explain me what is good vision for you? Like that guy said, I need to quickly read navigator with a lot of data because I'm pedaling, I know all the data, I'm comparing, so it's his life. He said, it's very important for me. So then you already understand that for that task, probably, for that conditions, probably the best lens, it could be a specific model of extended range of vision lens. And then you try to connect this story of the patient. You're creating for him a narrative. It's kind of narrative-based education. So you're not delivering a technical words. You're delivering his story, saying that, well, for your bicycle, the best solution is that because it will deliver you, let's say, Acuity Reserve, you will be able to read it quickly, which is important for you. And lens which you was thinking about is not, in my opinion, is not good because it will give you more cognitive load to understand what is written. Let's how do we feel about this? But if we're talking about that particular case, for example, if you're talking about the trifocal in this case, but in this case, probably your far vision will be a little bit not as sharp, and if you're talking about night driving, you might experience something. So how do you think? And we don't have a miracle, so we have to elect either
Choose.
fast reading here, or let's say far vision is prioritizing and you have to reduce your bicycle riding speed when you are reading. Tell me about how it's about you. At that point, you build a connection with the patient. He or she understands that you are caring about his life, his particular visual experience, and you are not in position just to sell him the most expensive lens. You're building the trust. And if the patient is feeling the trust, the patient says, well, I trust the doctor and probably he is not cheating. And the most important, even if something will go wrong, the patients are normally more more supportive, more cooperative, if even in the bad case scenarios. But generally, you have less, you're using less time and you're delivering more relevant information. And it's mentally not easy because it's normally, you want to show your expertise, explaining that I know all the things. But for the patient, it's not relevant. For the patient, it's more important to see how you care about as a patient, particular case. Do you hear me? Do you understand my needs? And I see you're thinking about my visual task, and I start trust you. And it's kind of you. I not feel that you're selling me something. I feel that you are really care about myself. That's it.
So this is very interesting for me because traditionally, most doctors will feel that the vote of confidence will fall on you demonstrating that you know your stuff. But here I hear you saying that it will fall more on, of course, you need to be professional, but you need to let the patient know that you understand him, like his individuality of the case. Like
Absolutely.
there is you're talking about patients as the full person and not only the refractive needs alone without the story of the patient. So you think, well, you're saying that the feeling of being uniquely understood as a patient gives the full trusting on moving forward with any choice with this particular doctor.
Yes, it's my personal opinion based on what I'm hearing from the patients. And I've read quite, I cannot say quite a lot, but significant amount of publications about this building and of the, it's more about shared decision making, building a rapport and shared decision making when the patient are involved in the conversation more. So this part is crucial for building the trust. And if you ask me, I can find some links. I do remember somewhere it's stored in my files. But generally, it's my personal opinion and my experience show that this personal connection from clinical side to the personal patient story makes a big thing. And if I reflect myself being a patient or my wife being a patient, it's everywhere. If we're talking about the dentistry or whatever field of medicine, if as a patient, you start feeling that doctor is really seeing you as a human, as a personality with your fears, with your needs, and addresses the fears and needs, it builds the trust. Why patients sometimes looking for different opinion? Well, first of all, it's reasonable to have if it's a complicated case, but sometimes the reason for a different opinion is very simple. They didn't get this feeling that doctor really understands me. So this guy is talking about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but I'm not sure that he is going to do a good job for me because I need that. That's the core. So that's why, in my experience, this personalized approach, when you connect and hear the patient with the clinical values, it helps. So it doesn't mean that you have to listen to the patient's story for an hour, not that much. just relevant things. It's not easy to change the way, but it's not as difficult. You don't
Not as hard.
the core the core here is not to change yourself. You're just changing the architecture of let's say environment of the conversation. You should not be let's say, if you're not empathic, for example, you don't have to go to the courses of empathy for a year to understand emotions, all the things. It's just a decision-making environment. So instead of delivering the full menu of lenses and explaining all the clinical stuff, we're just trying to connect what is relevant. Like, here is a point and you have a solution. Just connect. Don't give whole the menu. If patient will ask, you can always deliver kind of, let's say, links, videos, whatever, to read all the stuff.
Extra information. And does this way of architecture of the decision process would make impact on, in case, let's say, there is some dissatisfaction after the surgery? Would this make it easier, or how does this architecture of decision making can help with this thing that we as surgeons fear on the post-op? Because we don't like to be like this, like you mentioned in your I don't know if it was a video of one of the writings, the psychologist chair in the post-op, that then you have to work with the patient way of why he's not happy with the results, even when sometimes they see 20/20, but they're still not happy. So how does this architecture helps on this process post-op?
Well, first of all, it helps to avoid these situations, because if you're not delivering all the options and saying vast majority of my patients are like you, happy with that solution, and if you miss something like speed of reaction in my example, patient will be unhappy by default, because vast majority of patients are able to read the whatever. For that guy, it's important to read it quickly, comfortable, so you miss that point. So it's a preliminary source of dissatisfaction. So first of all, this approach helps you to reduce amount of dissatisfied patients, because you, before the surgery, you are not talking about the old clinical stuff. You're talking about his or her particular case, and you are doing the decision together. You're explaining the pros and cons and ask your patient what you think. Of course, we're not talking about, let's say, when a patient is clinically not suitable for trifocal, but you are discussing trifocal, not that case, of course. So first of all, we have to understand the clinical relevance. So we're talking about the healthy patient who is suitable for any solution. But we have to connect, first of all, and ask twice what exactly means a good vision for you, connect with the lens, and make this shared decision-making. So it eliminates and reduces significantly the way how the how you select the lens. It significantly reduces the risk of patient dissatisfaction, because what is dissatisfaction? What is quality? It is quite subjective things. What means good quality for myself, for whatever product, might be absolutely different for yourself. Some people value, like, if car is nice or it's comfortable seats. Some people value its car is lasting for 20 years. It's a different way of sense of quality. It's subjective. The same here. So we reduce, I'm not able to say eliminate, it's always a risk. We're reducing the level of dissatisfaction. And then if in a bad case scenario, something happens, missing refractive target, or for whatever reason, you was not able to define with your patient something which was really important, and that it just jumps out of the box after the surgery, you already have a good connection. You have this rapport with the patient, and patient already don't feel that you was a pushy seller who sold him that lens. He understood that you did it together. And in my experience, it works better. In my experience, even when unhappy patients are asking myself for advice, they said, well, I have that problem with the doctor. I don't know what to do. I'm afraid to go, or I want to, let's see, to start a lawsuit, whatever. I said, look, it already happened. I suggest you, if you want the best solution, first of all, and I do remember 5 years ago on one conference, I got this question, how to deal with unhappy patients. My answer was, first of all, you as a doctor, if your patient is unhappy for whatever reason, you have to accept that it happens and try to explain to your patient, try not to defend yourself. Say, well, it happens for whatever reason. And now the problem is we're with you in one boat. It's my problem because I'm doctor, I did your surgery and it happens, whatever it is. But it's also your problem because it is your body and your bad case scenario. I'm very sorry that it happens. It was not because it's medicine, we all know. But let's try to figure out what's the best solution we can find in that situation. It's if we didn't build a good relationship. If you build already a relationship, patient feel yourself, it's not a question for the patient, are you in a different boat or are you the same boat? You already made a decision together. So it's easier to solve the problem because you have such a connection. Probably patient come to you and said, well, you explained me my story and it will be that way, but I'm not able to see well. Maybe bad luck, we missed refractive target. But first of all, I hope you, before the surgery, you explained to the patient that it might happen in 1 or 2% or 5% of cases, and it might happen for sure, not with you, but somebody else. It's statistics. And in bad case scenario, if something bad will happen, we'll try to do whatever is possible. Is it lens exchange, LASIK correction, free glasses, or just acceptance of the situation? Because for whatever reason, we have to talk. The worst situation happens when we are not explaining to the patient what happens. So first of all, try to hide, again, coming back to the beginning of the conversation, like a marketing, what marketing said. 100% cases, 100% good vision in on website.
Inside patient.
I come to the doctor. Oh, well, refractive target might be sometimes missed. 2020 is not guaranteed because of whatever, halos, glare, or reading ability, all the things. And patient said, either the guy is not knowing what he is doing, or he has a bad technology, or somebody is cheating with me at the beginning. So we have to, well, of course, I'm talking about ideal world. It's not possible to achieve.
Yes, of course.
But we have to accept and understand that from one side, we have there's a loud marketing. From another second side, we have a clinical part. And you are the last mile of patient journey. You as a surgeon, you're holding your patient at the last point where he or she making decision, goes to OR, and after that, it's irreversible change. And at that time, the most important that patient trust you. You show that you deliver your personalized story to the patient. You really delivering this personalized care. And in a bad case scenario, as I said already, you have this connection which helps to reduce this, let's say, temperature in the room in case of possible conflicts. Of course, nothing is ideal. We have really patients with some mental disorders. We have a patient with specific emotions. It happens. But the problem is patients, it's not a big amount of patients like that, like really crazy guys. But they exist. But they're quite loud. Some of them just unheard and traumated child. And if you just build your conversation around understanding and hearing, you are significantly reducing the
stress,
likelihood of the bad outcomes of stress. Yes.
Yeah. So moving towards, and this is like the last part of closing, talking about the market. Let's talk about opportunities and the market challenges that it has right now. What do you think, or why do you think that the adoption rate of premium lenses is still not very high around the world? Do you think it's because of the price, because of the surgeon fear? Like, we are afraid of offering something new, or is just the lack of communication skills?
It's a good question. It's I believe it's a little bit of everything. So first of all, price. Yeah, definitely some patients are not able to afford the premium lenses. But I can give you one example. In Ukraine right now, we have a very tough economical situation. We have a tough environment. Probably this night it will be attacked to the Kiev. We expect it maybe that night, maybe next night. In other cities, always attacked. But in these circumstances, we have quite high amount of premium lenses in our country, and especially some brands are performing very, very well because of communication. I know from studies, it seems to be published on my website, study of Francesca Carone shows that about, in average in Europe, 20% of doctors at that time was offering premium lenses, whilst about 60% of patients was ready to accept the premium technologies. So doctors are not offering because it's somebody is not willing to be a pushy sellers. Somebody is afraid of bad results and don't want to waste time. And I'm not saying that it's bad. For instance, I have a good friend of mine. He is very strong surgeon, and he loves doing surgery. And he said, well, I love premium lenses because it gives me money, but I love doing as much surgery as I can. So it's better for me to reduce time I'm talking with patients. I'm doing more surgeries. But that guy is lucky. He has a good assistant who is very, very experienced in patient communication. I helped him to do this, to master this stuff, basically. So surgeons, lack of communication, lack of offer, and to my understanding, bad stories around the internet. Because if somebody is happy, he is happy silently, more or less. If somebody is unhappy, some patients will be unhappy again, silent, but when they're loud, they multiply like 10 times their unhappiness. If you just go to Reddit, for example, Reddit subforum cataract, it's not a big one, but it's a holy grail of bad stories. And patients are searching something, reading, and said, "Oh shit, maybe it's not good solution." So digital presence, last mile conversations, and to my understanding, the price is important, but not that much, honestly. Coming back to Ukraine, as I mentioned in our early stages, no money at all. I've been at the time, just for you to understand, I didn't have quite a lot of clothes to use. I have to use second-hand clothes or something like that. We was quite, let's say, poor nation at the time. But we started building and selling the fake machines at $100,000 per machine or something like that. Lenses of $100 at the time. The shoes of $20 was extremely expensive stuff, and the lens cost 100 at the time. So price is not issue. It's issue for some people, but value is something which drives all the sales. If we're talking about the sales, the value. If you value something more than your money, you don't care about price. So it's communication, and the way how you communicate the lens, how you communicate the value. If you tell that this lens delivers a good reading ability at that distance, or that lens delivers you freedom of glasses, it's not as powerful if you deliver the same stuff with a patient-based narrative. Like with that lens, you will be able to ride your bicycle at high speed without any risk missing whatever. It's absolutely different story for the patient. I feel that match. So the most, the most successful advertising, virus clips. The most successful advertising works if consumer reads or sees this and say, "Oh, that's for me. It's about me." As Arthur Cummings once written in some comments and LinkedIn, he said, WYYFM, the most important radio station. I never heard about that. He said, what is in for me? What is in for me?
What is in for me?
Yeah. So the most important stuff. So if patient feels and hears the value, that's it. So I'm not able to give you a right answer to what is the biggest problem to address. I believe it's everything. So bad stories in internet, communication, and price is the least important part, to my experience.
What is the since we have, and talking more about our target audience here, what is very similar to what you described on Ukraine, that a lot of patients pay still out of the pocket. Even the patients that have like a insurance coverage, maybe the premium lenses they would have to cover extra. But given these similarities, what is the single most effective change that doctors think can do by, let's say, this next Monday to improve their premium lens conversion? Like something practical that you think might help?
Well, first of all, it depends on what particular surgeon have as a bottleneck in his or her practice. I assume, in my experience, the most critical for those who are underperforming in premium is either fear of offering premium or offering premium as a top solution.
Okay.
I always suggest, because it's kind of mental trick which works for all of us in every field of let's say business, whatever. If you start offering, if you're brave enough to work with the premium IOLs, you love explaining the lens, and even you are mastering the skills of hearing a patient, etc. But you try to explain all the options. Compared to approaches, first one, well, dear patient, we have a monofocal, a very basic lens. You pay whatever, let's say 1,000 or 100, whatever. Well, it gives you good vision, and you need to add glasses for reading and add glasses for intermediate. Then, if you pay to me 50% more, example, well, you will add for that 50% better vision in intermediate. If you pay me X3, you will get all these things. So patients are framed that basic price for the surgery is 1,000, as I said at the beginning. It's a frame, it's an anchoring, mental thing. Whatever I tell you as a primary stuff or whatever, it gives you an anchor in your head. I mean, it's a baseline. Okay, what else? And now they're upgrading, and patients starts to calculate money and think, well, I spent extra 500 minus my money, and I gain something untangible, so better vision without glasses. Stop here. Another way. Look, for your particular case, as you said to me, and basically, by the way, survey on my website, IOL Advisor, I analyzed 9,000 patient responses. At least 62% of the patients are willing to have freedom of glasses. It's data. It's rigid data. It just, we didn't explain everything. It just probably been on my website. Automated Dr. Zell questionnaire, like your vision, performance, etc. So 60%, at least, almost 2/3 of the patient are willing to have a freedom of glasses. So in vast majority of case, in front of you will be a patient who will be telling you, well, I don't want glasses. As my good friend saying, my surgeon, he said, can you imagine a patient who will answer to the question, would you like to see poorly? Do you want a bad vision? No, I want a full range, no contact. I have good vision. That's it. Full range. I want everything. So coming back to that. So assuming that patient is always willing to have a full vision range, we start from the top. It's a little bit scary to offer because with patient, for sure, before they read different websites of the clinic and understand that baseline, it's, as I mentioned, 1,000 for monofocal. But you said to them, well, to gain the full range of vision, to eliminate all the need of glasses, no issues, of course, with some compromise, but then to have a full range of vision, you have to pay 3,000 anchor baseline. Well, at that doctor, and we built a report at the time, 3,000 is baseline. Then, if you pay me less, assuming 2,000, I have to take from you your vision. The trick here is psychologically, we tend to perceive losses way harder than gains. In first case, I'm losing my money. 500 more for glasses, I don't care. Well, no problem. In the second part, I've already anchored that I have a full range of vision, probably, but that doctor wants to take out part of my vision. And, well, I gain a little bit more money, but he took out my vision. Mentally, it's worse. So baseline is full range, and then I take from you 2 lines more. 2 lines more.
Yeah.
2 lines means glasses here. 2 lines mean glasses here. Would you love to pay to give back what I've taken from your side? So making things easier, to my experience, a very good scenario if you start from the top, downgrading, then if you start from the bottom, upgrading mentally.
Okay.
You can try yourself and see how it works. Do an A/B test.
I will do it today. I will do that today. Okay, and final question. If you could put a message on a billboard for every cataract patient in the world to see, what would you put there?
Oh, good question. Tricky question for the cataract patients.
Patients, yeah.
Let me think. Well, I would put one important thing. You are doing your surgery once in your lifetime, and the type of lens you put into your eyes will define your visual outcomes for the rest of your life. Don't try to save money on the technology. Don't try to save money on the cheapest doctor on your area, because everything has its price and value. So I encourage patients to pay for the most expensive procedure, for the most expensive. Well, it's wrong because we're thinking about the most expensive means trifocal or whatever.
Yeah.
I would say don't try to, if you are clinically eligible and you need something as visual range or visual quality or whatever, during this downgrade, don't try to save your money. If your doctor says the best solution for you is here, don't try to save some hundreds of whatever, dollars, euro, pesos, whatever. Don't try to save this, because you will be upset years later. Something like that, I would say.
That's a great.
And trust you, and you know, the most important, and trust your doctor. Don't try to expect that the doctor is cheating, because I'd never see a doctor who is willing to do a bad job. Honestly, we're all humans, and we want to be good. Honestly, I'm not talking about the bad guys who are robbing people in a dark street, but basically, trust your doctor and don't try to save your money reducing your vision quality. That's it.
Oleksii, thank you very much. I really enjoyed this interview. You gave us a lot of gold in words. I would encourage people to visit you in your YouTube channel. Well, for us, maybe the English channel is better. Is Intraocular Lenses Truth in YouTube, right? The IOL Advisor.
Yeah.
And your web page, I have it as avsologub.com.
Well, avsologub.com, it's my webpage for doctors, where I'm publishing my insights about patient communication. Yes, of course. Yes, for doctors.
And
yes.
the patient website?
Patient website is ioladvisor.com. IOL advisor.com. It's the most useful tool. It's I would say automated Dell questionnaire for the patient.
Okay, so I'm gonna put in the description of the video all of the relevant links, and people can, either doctors or patients, visit you, and maybe anyone that is interested in getting more full the course and understanding all of the architecture on the decision making. Of course, they can get in contact with you. Oleksii, again, thank you very much. I know it's late, so we will get you free for the weekend. And again, we appreciate a lot all of your knowledge, and I hope we can talk soon, and I will let you know how it went with these small changes that on the practice.
I will be happy to hear that. Thank you, Mario, for the opportunity to talk to you. And yeah, it took longer than I've expected. I hope I also not took too much of your time.
No, it's perfect.
But it was a great conversation, and thank you for interesting and tricky questions. I didn't expect that the level of conversation. I didn't expect specifically anything, so no expectation, and a great feeling after our interview. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Oleksii. So a big hug and greetings to your family.
Thank you. Have a great end of the day.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.